As local as I can get it from what I need. I work with local farmers with grapes within 15, 20 minutes from the winery, and then I reach out and get juice from the western side of Pennsylvania, but everything's within 300 miles of my location. So I have an opportunity to get it from other areas, but I just really want to focus on getting juice and grapes from this area, so I can really call it Pennsylvania wine.
And what inspires you to do that?
Because I'm a local kid, and what inspires me is I want to think that the people that grew the grapes, even in my packaging, the bottles are made in in Pennsylvania. The corks are processed in California, but everything's U.S. The packaging is all U.S. made, and I want to think that the guy that made that bottle or picked the grape came to my restaurant and drank the wine, ate the food, things like that. Like, that's cool.
Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimmy Honachik.
Hey, Noelle, I'm trying to do my intro right now.
Okay, well, I'm scrolling. I'm doing research. This is my job.
She is. So that is me. This is Jimmy Honachik. Obviously, we're on Why Am I Talking? Noelle Baxter is here with me. Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We were talking before this about our guest,
yes.
Justin Fretz from Easton Wine Project.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the word you used, I believe, was fire. Their menu is.
It is fire. Absolutely fire.
and so, we're going back and forth on how awesome it all looks. And you were scrolling to find some of the items that really stand out to you.
I found it.
Okay.
Cinnamon rolled churros.
Stop.
Cream cheese icing filled churros, rolled in cinnamon sugar, chocolate sauce, and whipped cream.
I feel like we should
let's just end this and go.
Yeah. Their food is awesome. Their wine is awesome. You know what I loved hearing this? I knew their wine was good, but I didn't realize how local it all is.
Yes.
Not just the wine, like the food. Also, he tries to source it as locally as possible.
Yeah, it's like charcuterie board. The cheese is on it.
Yeah.
Like just little things that you probably don't think of. Mm-hmm. I'm really glad that he got to tell that story.
Yeah. He's doing really cool things there. And he's just a cool guy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I didn't want to say this during the podcast, but I was like, can we just go out and get a glass of wine together?
I know.
I did ask him afterwards if I could join his family, and he did say no to that, which was
maybe he'll change his mind. Maybe because I was going to ask him too.
Yeah. Maybe after him and I get the glass of wine that I'm talking about, he'll change his mind.
Maybe he can talk me up in that conversation too.
So yeah, cool guy. Easton Wine Project is super cool. Mm-hmm. And I would say this episode was also super cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
He did a great job telling the story.
All right. So we're going to jump in. This is Justin with Easton Wine Project.
Let's go.
Boom. Here with an episode that I cannot wait to get into. If you know me, I love to eat a lot and I love wine and to drink. And I got both of them in one package at one of the coolest establishments in the Lehigh Valley. Justin Fretz, Easton Wine Project. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And what an introduction.
It's true. So, Noelle, you were just there, weren't you?
I was for an event, chamber event.
She's obviously cool. And so I know cool people go to this place, and it must be something that you guys do. I mean, talk to me about kind of how you've tapped into the pulse of the Lehigh Valley.
I think it all comes down to we kind of built something that we would want to go to and hang out at. One of my friends put it into perspective of this is like a college bar for 40-year-olds, right? So it was like it kind of has that feel of everybody's welcome. You can find your way as space for big parties. You can be intimate in certain areas of it with like a date night type of scenario. So I think we fit a lot of molds, I guess.
Yeah. What got you started? I mean, do you have a background in wine?
No, it's one of those things. I'm an Easton native. Grew up in Lehigh Valley. Graduated from Easton High School. I'm not going to tell you when. And went to a small school in Pennsylvania called Penn State. So I'm pretty much born and raised here. So There's that local feel, that Easton, that Lehigh Valley presence in everything we do at the Easton Wine Project. But I had a career that kind of sent me around the world. So I spent 15 years in the maritime industry.
Wow.
So fixing ships, and it took me to almost 30 different countries.
Wow.
So I learned a lot about different cultures, just saw how other nationalities did things, the appreciation they had for, whether it was beer, wine, food, just their culture in general. And when that career kind of wound up, I finished that type style of my life, or that moment of my life. And I thought, hey, I want to do something, a business locally that kind of touched on that culture of Easton.
Yeah.
I just try to bring out the best part of Lehigh Valley and Easton and the people.
And
it's the people.
And you've done that. I mean, everyone who's gone there has the same reports, the food, the vibe, it's all great. But before we dive into that, I have to ask you a question. I've asked people this before and they hate it. Okay. So you're well-traveled, right? Mm-hmm. What's your favorite country that you went to? I knew
everybody asks that. Like my kids ask me all the time, Dad, what's your favorite this? Dad, what's your favorite that?
Yeah.
And it's a mood to me. Like I had a great time in Aruba. And so when I went to work, I kind of worked with the working class people. I didn't go for business meetings. I was basically a ship mechanic. So I worked with the blue collar, people. So after the job is done, sometimes you go out with the locals and they would give you the local experience, and the local experience in Aruba is awesome.
Yeah.
And maybe not the tourist experience, but the local experience was awesome.
Oh, that's great.
But when you go to a place like Ecuador, like the nature is incredible.
Yeah.
I went to Brazil, and the nature there is incredible. And I went to Brazil during festival. Yeah. So that was an experience, even in the States, Mardi Gras time. Mm-hmm. So they all just have their I wouldn't call it a favorite, but they just all have their thing. And it's it's an experience in that moment at that time. Mm-hmm. And it's like unrepeatable, right? Irreplaceable type of thing. So having a favorite, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
But then you take all of those experiences and you bring them back to the Lehigh Valley.
You do. Like, I'm not trying to replicate them. It's it's like all those experiences were an experience and a feeling, and I'm trying to produce that feeling from our area. You know what I mean? So when people leave and go, I went to Easton and I went to this place and it was so great. And these are the people I met there. You know what I mean? The servers, the management staff, the wine, it all matters.
Yeah. And it's working. How do you go from, working on ships to saying, making wine? That's the next move.
I guess a little dumb luck and a little bit willingness to just do anything and everything. So I wrapped up the career in the maritime industry. Was searching for something to do. Had an opportunity to work in a vineyard. Thought that was awesome. Yeah. And
locally?
Locally. Okay. A small private vineyard, and started making wine. And I'm a mechanic per se. So either the bolt fits or it doesn't. Whereas like wine, there's so many variables. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you can create it to move it to one way or another. And so it's almost like an unwritten book. Whereas like doing mechanical stuff, it's like, it's a written manual.
Right.
Like you just follow the steps and it should work. And it's very, right away, does the engine start? Yes, you did a good job. Whereas like wine, you can make it and you let 100 people taste it and 80 might like it and 20 don't. Or the opposite, 80 hate it and 20 like it. So that's scary.
I was going to say,
for a guy like me.
Did that feel like, a good experience where, hey, I have this freedom now, or was it kind of overwhelming?
No, it's terrifying. Because and then the other thing is you might make something that you think is incredible and it doesn't pass the muster for like commercial standpoint of it, So that was out of my wheelhouse. It was totally scary, but luckily I was lucky enough to start making little batches of wine and they turned out okay. And so then I had this, fake it till you make it type of thing where like I made one good batch. Let's see if I can make another good batch and, it goes from there.
Yeah. How do you take what sounds like kind of a hobby project and turn it into a business?
I guess I don't know, just assume again, that kind of fake it till you make it going, hey, if I can do it, let's repeat this. And then kind of those little seeds that were planted during the time I was traveling. And then, my wife was working out at Trinity Fitness at that Silk Mill. She's like, hey, if you ever wanted a tasting room, they're renting these spaces over there and you should go check it out. So I did. And I was like, this place is really cool. And it reminded me of a trip I went on to Portugal. And I was like, yeah, this kind of is an experience kind of came my memory. And I was like, yeah, this could be just like that. And then, you call the landlord and say, hey, you got space available? Yes. How much? Okay, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden you got a hammer and nails and you're building a tasting room. So it's one of those. Yeah.
Is that terrifying though? Like going, having a stable career and now you have a family, it sounds like, and you're saying, I'm just going to sign this giant lease and start a business and hope that I sell some wine. Yeah. Yeah.
Terrifying.
When did you feel like you hit the point where you can take a deep breath and kind of relax?
So so I signed the lease and they gave us just a shell of a building. So I think I had 2 bathrooms in it, just a square, they call it a plain vanilla box.
Yeah.
But it had so much character to it. And, I started converting it, meet with an architect and and then you had to follow, it's a historic building. So you had to follow some little bit of rules about not covering certain things up. It had to shine through and, the old architecture had to shine through. Found out my grandmother worked in that building.
No way.
Yeah. It was the purse factory during the war.
Yeah.
And she worked there. She lived up on Jackson Street, a couple blocks away. And
wow.
And spent some time there. Larry Holmes came in a couple months ago and was he's like, I used to load trucks right out front there. And I was like, there's so much history here.
Yeah.
It's a 120-year-old building. But anyway, going back to that, I'm just outfitting the place and we're making wine and we're running out of money. Just running, bootstrap this. So we're running out of money. And so there was this thing called Common Space down on Northampton Street. It was like a commissary kitchen where you could, if you were like a baker or you just needed kitchen space, you could rent it by the hour. And they had some little pop-up vendors there. And so we were like, let's do an event. Like I have wine. I need to sell it. I don't have this place to sell it, but we have these little permit things where we can go and have pop-up locations. And so we did this pop-up, advertise it on Facebook and social media and amount of people that came.
Really?
Like I was like, what? People want my wine? Like what? And I was selling a little bit out of the back of the trunk, stuff here and there to friends and family and stuff. But and it wasn't a big amount of money, but it was like, I can actually go to Home Depot and buy some more lumber and electrical outlets and things like that. So I was like, man, we might have something here. And the business plan we had was very I don't know, modest per se. And I was like, if this is what we did in one night, add it times 300 nights,
right?
This could be a business, right? So then some of that, you relax, you took a deep breath and we're like, oh, wow, okay, there might be something here. So that gives you little steps along the way, give you a little bump to do another month worth of 80-hour weeks. You know what I mean? And then our first opening, we barely had the place decorated. So we opened up and it was packed and you just go from there.
Wow. Yeah.
And everything wasn't directly uphill, but a lot of bumps along the way, but you kind of realize you might have something there.
You're touching on something, which is kind of the community in Easton. And you get that vibe that it is a community that's pretty tight there. Talk to me, about Larry Holmes coming and stopping by or just about the Easton community in general. Yeah,
no. So there's a lot of support and that came to, it was right in front of us during COVID when, doors shut down and, the doors were locked and people were calling and saying, how can we help you? They were buying gift cards. They were buying bottles to go. They were doing a lot of takeout and they just wanted to support. And then also too, when those grand openings happened and we have a mobile, we call it the wine wagon that goes to events and the amount of feedback you get and they just come over just to talk, even if they're not drinking a wine that day, they'll just come over and just, hey, we were there the other day and that kind of stuff. So you gotta love Easton and the Lehigh Valley for that. And then, we would sell t-shirts with Easton Wine Project on it and I'd be out somewhere. I think I was at Music Fest. I was like, somebody's sitting there with my wife going that's our t-shirt.
That's really cool.
That's kind of cool, right?
No one's out there with insurance t-shirts.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
We need them.
Yeah. So, but it is, and I say there's been such a revitalization in Easton from kind of when I was growing up to where it is now. And you're a part of that. Like you are part of that story.
Yeah. And whoever would have thought, right?
Yeah.
I never thought that. You know, just a hometown kid, we used to, the strip was Northampton Street and it was a different Northampton Street.
Right. Yeah.
Back in the 80s and 90s than it is now. Wow. What a difference. And I am proud to be a part of that. And, maybe there's something in me that always knew it could be something. And I'm glad, I was able to explore the world and then come back and still do it in my hometown. It's cool.
What about the Lehigh Valley, has kind of kept you here? What do you think it is? You
hear other people say it too. It's like kind of in the middle of you got a bit of a small town feel as well as all the, experiences of a larger city, everything from, good baseball, minor league baseball, minor league hockey. You're an hour to Philly, an hour to New York, hour and 15 to the beach.
Yeah.
You got Great Lakes, you got mountains. I mean, if you can't find something to do around here, or at least within half hour to an hour,
there's great wine too.
It's great. And then, that's another thing. It's, I don't try to compete against California wines. They have just a different, and some wineries around here import, the juice and grapes from California. I try to do everything local, but we're trying to establish ourselves as we can make good wine and grow and make good wine around here. So it's not the same. It's different, but it's our unique flavor to it.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Cause you're right. You guys source locally, right? Everything is as local as you can.
As local as I can get it from what I need. I work with local farmers with grapes within 15, 20 minutes from the winery. And then, I reach out and get juice from the western side of Pennsylvania, but everything's within 300 miles of my location. So I have an opportunity to get it from other areas, but I just really want to focus on getting juice and grapes from this area. So I can really call it Pennsylvania wine.
And what inspires you to do that?
Because I'm a local kid,
and
what inspires me is I want to think that the people that grew the grapes, even in my packaging, the bottles are made in Pennsylvania. The corks are processed in California, but everything's U.S. The packaging is all U.S. made. And I want to think that the guy that made that bottle or picked the grape came to my restaurant and drank the wine, ate the food.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like, that's cool. Like,
it is.
And sometimes still say, oh, buy local. Like, no. Like, the local that from Easton Wine Project is super local. Like, you're supporting families down the street. You really are.
That's awesome. Okay. So you make a great wine and it's local.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that's not the only part of the business, right? Like, it would be one thing if that was all you had to do. But there's the restaurant and the food that goes along with that.
Yeah, so that was not the plan. So
how do we get there?
Yeah, story, right? So we make wine and then we produce wine, and we started with 8 wines. First day we opened, we had 8 wines.
Can I ask you your favorite wine? I know you love favorite questions.
Again, it's situational. If I'm on the beach, it's rosé. It's our rosé. Right now, I'm probably a Saval Traminette. The weather now is Saval Traminette. I'm not a huge red wine drinker.
Okay.
But I do, if I'm having a steak, I would go like a Deschonach or Merlot. And I love my sparkling wines. I like the bubbles. I really do. You call me what you want, but I like the bubbles.
It's fun to drink.
It is.
No one's going to hold that against you.
It is. Yes. I've been known to take care of a bottle of rosé on the beach all by myself.
Easily.
Okay, so you started with 8 wines, you were saying.
Started with 8 wines, and I felt a little guilty. So when we first opened up, I would watch people come and drink a healthy quantity of wine without food, right? And I was like, that's not great. Yeah, that's not great, right? So we started with just the little bites, like little meatballs and little shrimp and like something I could, do in a little small kitchen. Yeah. And people enjoyed it. So then it goes to do a little bit more and do a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then now I have a chef. Like, so it just escalates.
And you hear the restaurant industry is one of the hardest industries.
It's hard.
And most people who get into it, I feel like they grew up as a server or they were in the back, and you just kind of evolved into it.
Yeah, but I can't say that it's me 100%. It's me maybe driving the bus, but there's a lot of people helping me out with that. I hired my first helper, and she was doing everything from coordinating events there and just being a helper. And then, she had some skills with cooking, and then, oh no, we need to really find a cook. And then we found a cook, and you realize that these people can be super creative, and sky's the limit if you find a good cook. And then the cook turns into a chef, and then the chef comes in a sous chef, and then sous chef and line cooks, and then you have a whole kitchen. So that's a creative side that I don't have. So I just find good people to do it. And then when it comes to the parameters of it, it's kind of like, let's do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Let's do it a little different. Let's do it within the confines of like what our kitchen can handle, what the customer wants, and who we are as a winery. It
sounds like you're having fun with it, right? You're doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's got to be kind of liberating, going from, I know it was terrifying at first, but going from, a mechanic role where everything is XYZ has to be done this way to kind of the world's your oyster. Have you started to really kind of lean into that and have fun with it?
Some days, yes. Some days it's like, oh my, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
That's usually at night when things don't go so well. And then the next morning I'm like, all right, let's just go out and do it again.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do. No, there's a lot of fun aspects to it. I have great people around me that, keep it rolling. And then, we empower them to make it fun too. Like, not all these ideas at Easton Wine Project are mine. I can't say that. That's all me. The food is definitely a creative side that happens, with the chefs, with the managers, with, even my wife gets involved with that. I kind of try to stick to the wine side and the operational side again, because that's more of the mechanical.
Yeah.
Like the operations do this,
Yep.
And I'm the guy that fixes the dishwasher when it breaks, but when it comes to decisions on sauces and, desserts and things, I kind of let somebody take the wheel on that one.
Yeah. No, that's great. You've mentioned your family. How has it been, I imagine a job like this requires a lot of time. How have you been able to make that balance happen?
When I was traveling a lot. My worst, I don't call it my worst year, but the most I traveled in one year was like 300 days. So think about that. So I knew I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I can't say that I'm working less, but I'm working within 7 miles of my house.
Yes.
So that helps, right? So I can stop what I'm doing, go be with the family for a minute, come back, do that. And again, I have great people around me. So I'm able to insulate myself from all the restaurant, happenings, I guess you could say. So I've been able to manage it. It's, it's not easy and not perfect at all times, but I do the best I can. I do the best I can.
That's all we're doing, right?
Yeah,
we're trying our best.
We're trying our best.
How important are events for you guys? I imagine it's a big deal.
Yeah. Like we talked earlier, like the events kind of were the thing. So we welcomed events in the beginning because we didn't do a ton of like marketing.
Right.
So our marketing was get people to come, give them a great deal on coming here and bringing 30 people for a bridal shower or baby shower. And then now we have like 30 people that have seen our place, and they've had a taste of our food, the buffet style of a party, but then they check out our menu and go, hey, like, I'm going to come back here. You know, this is a cool place for date night or this or that. So in the beginning, we just booked a lot of those just to get people in the door, and then you get repeat business from that. And then it just became a thing. Yeah. We're just a nice little quaint little place. So we've done everything from weddings to like baptismal things, rehearsal dinners, bridal showers, baby showers. So events are cool for us. Yeah. And we have a good space. We comfortably fit between 40 and 30, 30 and 40 and 60 in our side room. And then if you want to open the doors and kind of commingle with everybody else there, we can fit more. And then if you want to shut down the place, we'll give you the whole place.
Okay.
So.
How, like the partnerships that must take? Do you have partners that you work with? Like the Chamber just had an event there.
Yeah, we love the Chamber events. We've done everything from corporate events. I think the mayor came and did his re-election campaign there. We've had, what else we do? Little, like, end of the year parties for sporting teams. So we just work with anybody who wants to. We work with Lafayette a lot. A lot of times, like their end of the year, like for the department, or even their sports teams have events there. So we work with whoever wants to come, and when you start working with them, then it's a repeat thing. They come every graduation year and things like that. And then Chamber, Easton, Business Association, we've done events for. So we're kind of a cool place for that.
And you are a cool place, like the Silk Mill in general. Just talk about that. It is a very unique place to have something like that.
It is. So when our first draw was that there was they phased it out. We were kind of one of the early, or phased it. The growth was phased, but we were one of the first businesses, not the first, but I think in the first 10 or so. And the draw was that there was 140 apartments going to be there. So 2 people per apartment, you got 300 built-in customers, So we were like, cool. Like they can come down and get a drink, go upstairs and, finish their night, like end of the night drink. So we were like, this could be a good place. In the beginning, parking was tricky because like they were doing a lot of construction and the parking lots weren't too open. So we built that, but it was like, then we found out there's a brewery there, there's a distillery there, and then we were the wines, so we had the trifecta. And then we were Bozer-Geist. They're closed now, but Bozer-Geist was there. They had a small kitchen, but then when we built our kitchen, we were the only like food place there. So it has its pros and cons. Sometimes when you're the last one on the trifecta, then you get, people that have had a good time that night. But if you're the first stop in the trifecta, then, it's good. But we're the stop that they want to eat food at. So that's always fun. Nice. And we're one of the bigger places there. So that helps too. So we're like the landing pad for a lot of it. So and then, we had, a little bit diverse. So you have like the bridal place there with the wedding dresses and stuff. And so sometimes people come for a fitting and then they come and eat lunch at our place. So like there's a lot of fit there, which is nice.
What are your hours, like your standalone hours?
Noon during the week. We're open at noon. We're open till, about 9 o'clock or whenever the last, when everybody leaves. Friday and Saturday till about midnight, when everybody leaves. And then Sunday we quick 11 to 4. So I just want a quick Sunday because
get a nice little brunch in.
Yeah, because we're open 7 days a week. Well, we used to do brunch, but now we're just doing a regular menu. But it's just like the staff is like, you know what? I want to enjoy my Sunday. We close at 4. So 7 days a week. And so it's a bit of a business, a lot.
Yeah. How do you think about marketing? We talked a little bit about, how much you do, but how do you think about it? How do you guys use it?
So I'm probably really bad at marketing other than, it's definitely word of mouth. I mean, I still love the fact that people come like, I've lived in Easton forever and I didn't know this was here. And it's like, good. So I still have a customer base that hasn't been touched yet. But then on the flip side of that, you're like, oh man, I'm not touching the people I need to touch.
Right.
But I like the word of the mouth, and then, social media because it's cheap, and then we've done.
You have a great team. It's so much fun watching like the videos and the clips that they put out there.
Yeah. And then we put the team out there because it's like they're the ones you come and see. Like that's the point. I want to say Easton Wine Project is we're our product is like an experience. It's not wine. It's not food. It's an experience, right? So the experience comes with your server, the staff that are there. Of course, the product, the food, is an experience, and the wine is an experience, and the cocktails and all that, and the beer and stuff like that is all an experience. But it's overall. So the team's the biggest part of that.
Yeah.
Social media is our biggest marketing. And then, like I said, we have that wine wagon. So we're at events, Easton Wine Project.
We need to look into this wine wagon.
I have already looked into it.
Yeah. And that was a response to COVID. When they shut the doors and people are like, we still want to have a good time.
Right.
And we're like, we'll bring the good time. My wife's idea, like we went to an event and I think they saw like Kona Ice or another truck just pull up. Like we were setting up a tent and then coolers and was like a lot of unloading out of the back of a truck, and they were like, man, it's a lot of work, and it was hot, and the sun was blaring on us and whatever, and they were like, and the truck just pulls up, opens the doors, and just starts selling. I think it was Kona Ice or
they do one,
something like that, or something else, and they were like, we want that. and I was like, that's on you, Justin. And then COVID hit, and I searched all around for a van or a trailer, enclosed trailer, and built out the interior of it. And then we started going to private events during COVID. A lot of weddings were outside during that time, so we attended weddings as the wine supplier. And then now we do a lot of the festivals for like the Chamber and Lafayette College, and so we do tree lighting events in the wintertime. Things like that. You just show up.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. Something else that came out of COVID that you guys did is your slushies. Can you take a minute to just...
Yeah, slushies were fun. So we had the idea for slushies, and COVID again, they shut us down, and so we did take out slushies. We're close to the Arch Trail, which is just right across the Bushkill Creek from our location. And people would, outdoor, they would have extra time. They would go for a walk. They'd swing in and grab a slushie, do their walk, and swing in for another slushie and head home and things like that. So, yeah, slushies were a big hit during COVID because it's still a way to stay connected to the customer, and it was unique. And people weren't making them at home.
Did you need different machinery for that?
We did. You just the slushie machinery you see at the 7-Eleven, but you just turn it up real high because there's alcohol involved.
Right.
So you just turn it up real cold.
Yeah.
So that came out of COVID. Keep our kitchen running. We gave away food to the frontline workers, and we got businesses to sponsor other businesses. So, like the nurses, the police departments, the fire departments, things like all those frontline workers. So just to keep the food moving through the kitchen. So we were super creative there. I mean, I think we're super creative all the time, but it just made us be even more creative. Yeah. And a lot of good came out of that. Just the way our team was built, and, how we reacted to, adversity a little bit. And, it just makes us stronger.
Yeah. So I feel like creativity is kind of the name of the game there. That's the vibe that I'm getting from you guys. Is you're open to trying new things and doing new things.
Yeah. And everybody has a voice, one of our core 4 values is empowering every individual there. So if anybody has a great idea, we go with it. You know what I mean? And all ideas are welcome. And there's a whole lot of why nots. Like, hey, let's do this. Why not?
Wait, what are your core 4 values?
So building community and relationships, so just everything, if you read restaurant tour books, Danny Meyer, the Union Hospitality Group, like the guy, if you want to build a restaurant, they have a script when they answer the phone, and when they come to the front door, we're not that. We're like, our script is that personality of that person, right? So if the person is bubbly, they can come across bubbly. Yes. If the person is very serious about the wine, they can come across serious. Yeah. And there's personality, differences there. And I think that's Easton, right? Yeah. I think Easton Lehigh Valley is a bit of a melting pot, and let's have that realistic expectation, not a scripted, hey, welcome to Easton Wine Project. How's your evening so far? And, we don't do that because we want that personality to come out.
You're a microcosm of the Lehigh Valley.
Exactly. Yeah. And we do hire some people from Phillipsburg, which hurts a little bit. I'm an Easton guy. But, you have, people from, even, one of my managers is from California, and she just brings her vibe too,
Love that.
So the vibe from the Easton Wine Project is definitely a little bit of everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. All right. We are over time. Ooh. I've been enjoying this conversation. I know it really does. I wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor for season 3, Z-Craft, Curators of Taste. Okay. They make incredible food. They do home delivery, but they also, you go to their coffee shop, you get delicious coffee. It's awesome.
Yeah, they were our neighbors for a while.
Yeah. And so, you're sipping on that coffee, you spill it, sip happens is what we like to say. Yeah. So we do this a little segment. So when is a moment for Justin where sip happens?
Look, I got a lot of I mean, I tell everybody when they come into the winery, I've spilled more wine than you will ever drink in your whole life. So, hoses break, you forget to turn valves off, things like that. So
does your heart drop when that happens?
It does. I'll tell you another story, and maybe this goes with SIP happens, which is, so when I first started, we built the place. I had a couple employees to help me do the construction and things like that. But a lot of the work was just me tending bar, which is the tasting room. Yeah. People come in and and if they didn't like the wine, they would be like, "Oh, not for me." Yeah. And then, I'd have to pour it out in the sink. And that used to just hurt.
I bet.
Because I picked that grape. I crushed that grape. I waited 8 months for it to turn into wine.
That's my actual baby.
And then you made me throw it in the sink. Uh-huh. So that's a little rough. But when it comes to building the place, there was a lot of just figuring it out on the fly. And I got stories of just, booking 2 inspectors at the same time and hiding, things that were not quite perfect out of sight, and getting the inspection done and then moving it back in, things like that. So there's a lot of things that I thought were going to go smooth and it didn't. And it's still that today sometimes. But
that's running a small business, isn't it? Every day.
It is.
So is there anything that we didn't hit that we should have hit? Anything you want to talk about? Anything about Easton Wine Project that people should know?
We care a lot about the community. Like we mentioned earlier, the product is, the packaging is all curated from inside the United States. I try to go as local as possible. Even our food, like the cheeses on our charcuterie board, are either from Lancaster County or even from Klein's Farm in Forks Township. So we try to do all that. The wine comes in within 300 miles. There are the juice and the raw materials from that comes very locally. We use local honeys and apples from Shoals and things like that. We really try to make the experience truly, truly local. So that's what I would, want people to know. We also care a little bit about the environment in the sense that, my wine comes out of taps in the tasting room because I was just tired of throwing away bottles after bottles, literally filling them up 10 feet away, emptying them here, and then throwing them in the recycling. But it didn't make sense. So I figured out a way to keg them, keg the wine, so to reduce the environmental impact there. All our packaging for to-go containers are all environmentally friendly, things like that. So I care about start to finish what happens in every aspect of that business. And, it's important to us.
All right. I now have 2 paths that I want to take this. The first is, so sourcing everything locally, caring about the environment. These are expenses, right? And you have to weigh that in. Is that a tough, just business decision to make?
They're extremely tough because it does affect the bottom line. It truly does, which, when it comes to business, bottom line is just, to me, it's resources, right? So you have cash, you're able to pay your employees. We give PTO for all our employees, all the salaried employees and stuff. I want them to take a break and vacation, and I want them to be paid for it. So that all affects that. I want to provide insurances and things like that. So it does. You have to weigh all those decisions, but there's some core values that we have that we just don't break.
I love that.
And I'm a big nature guy. So, and look, our product comes from nature, so we should protect it, type of thing. So that part, and then the local part is just because that's who I am. And I think that's what we stand for as the business. So we do our best when it comes to that.
You made me think about, you're talking about the kegs of wine. Mm-hmm. My wife and I were in Italy and we're touring a really small town, and there's this big truck in front of one of the small buildings there, and they got a hose running into it. And I was like, oh, they're getting their oil filled or something. They're like, no, they're just refilling their wine keg. I need a wine keg in my life.
Yeah. But I sold a whole keg of wine. I think it was cranberry or raspberry or something like that, to a customer. I was like, do you know how much wine that is? Yes. They're like, I'll sell it to you.
Right.
All right, that's cool. But that's for one person, that's 6 months worth of But they bought it. They're all in. So maybe they had a party. I don't know.
Well, this is great. I cannot say thank you enough for coming on here.
I appreciate it.
You guys really are doing, incredible things locally. You guys are doing incredible things just all around. And the food, the wine, it all speaks for itself. So thank you for everything you're doing. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Easton Wine Project. Go there.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.